The United States was changing. It wasn't the kind of change people talked about in history books or celebrated with fireworks. This change felt heavy, like a storm cloud hanging low over the country. People were angry, frustrated, and tired. The economy wasn't working for everyone anymore. Jobs that used to support families were disappearing, swallowed up by machines and cheap labor overseas. Politicians promised solutions but delivered little more than empty words. Trust in leaders was fading fast. In the middle of all this chaos stood J.D. Vance. He wasn't always someone people paid attention to. A few years ago, he was just another senator from Ohio, one of many voices in a crowded room. But something had shifted. Maybe it was his honesty, or maybe it was his refusal to play by the old rules. Whatever it was, people listened now. They saw him as different. He didn't sugarcoat things or shy away from tough topics. Instead, he spoke plainly, almost bluntly, about what needed to be fixed. And people liked that. JD's rise wasn't just luck. He worked hard, traveling across the country to meet ordinary Americans. He sat in diners, factories, and town halls, listening to their stories. Farmers worried about droughts, factory workers replaced by robots, parents struggling to afford health care. These weren't abstract problems to JD. They were real lives being affected every day. His message was simple. Accountability mattered. Leaders, whether in government or business, had to answer for their actions. No exceptions. While JD gained popularity, another figure loomed large. In the background, Barack Obama. Even though he was no longer president, Obama still carried weight. His speeches drew crowds and his opinions shaped conversations. To many, he represented hope, a reminder of better times. But not everyone agreed. Critics accused him of being out of touch, living in a bubble far removed from the struggles of everyday people. Still, his influence couldn't be denied. Obama was planning something big. In San Francisco, at a massive technology summit, he would deliver a speech. It was supposed to be historic. Organizers billed it as the speech of the decade, promising answers to humanity's greatest challenges. Climate change, inequality, artificial intelligence. Obama would tackle them all. Tickets sold out within hours, and millions tuned in online to watch. Everyone wanted to hear what he had to say, but behind the scenes, whispers spread. Rumors floated around Washington that Obama's team wasn't just preparing a speech. They were plotting something else, something secretive. Nobody knew exactly what it was, but hints pointed to advanced technology, artificial intelligence, designed to sway public opinion. If true, it could mean trouble. Manipulating voters went against everything democracy stood for, yet proving such a claim seemed impossible. Who would believe it? Emily Dawson did. She was a journalist, though not one of the big names you saw on TV. Her website barely had enough funding to keep running, but she didn't care. Emily believed in chasing the truth, even when it meant going against powerful forces. One evening, while digging through leaked documents, she stumbled upon something shocking. Emails between Obama's advisors and an AI company. Contracts, payment records, names, and dates. It all added up to one thing: a conspiracy. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the files. This wasn't just speculation, it was evidence. Hard proof. Emily knew she couldn't sit on this. She had to tell someone. But who? Most news outlets wouldn't touch it. They feared lawsuits or backlash. Then she thought of J.D. Vance. He'd built his career on exposing corruption. Maybe he'd listen. Reaching out wasn't easy. J.D.'s office was flooded with requests daily, and getting past his staff felt like trying to break into a fortress. But Emily persisted. She sent emails, made calls, and finally managed to secure a meeting. When she walked into his office, she was nervous. What if he dismissed her? What if he thought she was crazy? D greeted her warmly, though his eyes betrayed caution. "You've got 10 minutes, he said, leaning back in his chair. Emily wasted no time. She laid out everything: the emails, the contracts, the connections between Obama's team and the AI firm. JD listened intently, occasionally nodding. When she finished, there was silence. "This is serious," JD said finally. "If it's true." "It's true," Emily insisted. "I've double-checked everything. I wouldn't come to you unless I was sure." JD studied her for a moment, then nodded again. "All right. Let's assume it is. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to expose it," Emily replied without hesitation. "You're the only one who can make people listen." JD leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "Do you understand what you're asking? Taking on someone like Obama, it's not just risky, it's dangerous for both of us." "I know," Emily said softly. "But isn't that why you're here? To fight for what's right?" JD didn't answer right away. He stared at the papers, in front of him thinking. Finally, he looked up. "Give me 24 hours. I need to verify this myself. If it checks out, we'll figure out our next move." Relief washed over Emily. She hadn't expected him to agree so quickly. "Thank you," she whispered. "You won't regret this." As Emily left, JD sat alone in his office, staring at the documents. He knew she was right. This was exactly the kind of fight he'd signed up for. But that didn't make it any less daunting. Obama wasn't just a former president. He was a symbol. Attacking him would bring scrutiny and enemies from all sides. Yet JD also knew he couldn't ignore the truth. Not if he wanted to sleep at night. Later that evening, JD returned home to find Rachel waiting for him. She was sitting on the couch, a book open in her lap. When she saw the look on his face, she closed it immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked. JD hesitated before answering. Should he tell her? She'd always been his rock, the person who kept him grounded. But involving her in this could put her in danger. Still, he trusted her completely. "There's something I need to show you," he said, pulling out his laptop. As he explained the situation, Rachel listened quietly, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she sighed deeply. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Going after Obama, it's not just a political move. It's personal. People love him. They'll hate you for this." "I don't care about being liked," JD replied firmly. "I care about doing what's right." Rachel nodded slowly. "Then I'm with you. Just promise me one thing. Don't lose sight of who you are in the process." JD smiled faintly. "I won't." Meanwhile, in San Francisco, preparations for the tech summit were underway. Workers scurried around the convention center, setting up stages, lights, and cameras. Backstage, Obama reviewed his notes one last time. He felt good about the speech. It was inspiring, hopeful, and forward-thinking. Exactly what the world needed right now. His team buzzed around him, offering final adjustments. Marcus Hale, his chief strategist, hovered nearby, whispering updates into his earpiece. Laura Bennett, the communications director, handed him a cup of coffee. Both wore expressions of quiet confidence. Everything was under control, or so they thought. Unbeknownst to them, cracks were forming. Somewhere deep in the digital ether, encrypted messages pinged between servers. Leaks were spreading, secrets were unraveling. And JD Vance was watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The stage was set. The players were in place. All that remained was the spark that would ignite the fire. JD Vance spent the next 24 hours poring over the documents Emily had given him. He locked himself in his office, shutting out distractions. His staff grew worried. JD was known for being intense, but this was different. He barely ate or slept, his focus entirely on verifying every detail. If he was going to accuse a former president of something as serious as manipulating public opinion with artificial intelligence, he couldn't afford any mistakes. The more JD read, the clearer it became that Emily wasn't exaggerating. The evidence was damning. Detailed contracts outlined how the AI company would create algorithms designed to influence voter behavior. Payment records showed large sums of money funneled through shell corporations linked to Obama's team. Email exchanges revealed discussions about targeting specific demographics, low-income communities, swing state voters, even young people active on social media. It wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. Still, JD knew he needed independent confirmation. He reached out to a trusted contact, Alex Carter, an old friend from law school who now worked as a cybersecurity expert. Alex agreed to meet him late at night in a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts of town. When JD handed over the files, Alex's eyes widened. "This is explosive," Alex muttered, scrolling through the documents on his laptop. "If this gets out, it could blow up the entire political system." "That's why I need your help," JD said. "Can you verify these, make sure nothing's been tampered with?" Alex nodded. "I'll do what I can, but if this is real and it looks like it is, you're stepping into dangerous territory." "I know," JD replied grimly. "But I didn't get into politics to sit back and watch while people abuse their power." Alex promised to have answers within 48 hours. Until then, JD decided to keep things quiet. He told only Rachel, his wife, about the situation. She listened patiently, but reminded him of the risks. "You're not just challenging Obama," she said. "You're challenging the entire establishment. They'll come after you with everything they've got." "I'm ready," JD said firmly. "Besides, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for everyone who feels like their voice doesn't matter anymore." Emily Dawson, meanwhile, was struggling to stay safe. After meeting with JD, she started receiving strange messages online. Anonymous accounts accused her of lying, spreading misinformation, and even working for foreign governments. At first, she ignored them, assuming they were random trolls. But when someone sent her a photo of her house along with a threatening note, she realized she wasn't dealing with ordinary critics. Terrified, Emily contacted JD. He immediately arranged for extra security measures, including a temporary safe house where she could lay low. Despite the danger, Emily refused to back down. She believed too strongly in exposing the truth. Every time she thought about backing out, she reminded herself of the people whose lives were being manipulated without their knowledge. This wasn't just about politics, it was about protecting democracy itself. In San Francisco, Barack Obama remained unaware of the storm brewing around him. Surrounded by loyal advisors, he focused on perfecting his speech for the tech summit. Marcus Hale and Laura Bennett handled logistics, ensuring every detail was flawless. From lighting to camera angles, nothing was left to chance. They wanted this event to cement Obama's legacy as a visionary leader. But behind their polished exteriors, Hale and Bennett were panicking. Rumors of leaks had reached them, though they didn't yet know the extent of the damage. Both men scrambled to cover their tracks, deleting emails, shredding documents, and instructing the AI company to destroy evidence. Their actions weren't subtle. They knew they were running out of time. But desperation made them reckless. Laura tried to reassure herself that no one would believe such wild accusations against Obama. "He's untouchable," she told Marcus during a tense phone call. "No one will take this seriously." "I hope you're right," Marcus replied. "But we can't afford to underestimate our enemies. If this blows up, it's over for all of us." Back in Ohio, JD received Alex's report confirming the authenticity of the documents. With undeniable proof in hand, JD began planning his next move. Confronting Obama publicly would be risky, but it was also the only way to ensure maximum impact. The Tech Summit provided the perfect opportunity, a global platform where millions would witness the truth. JD called a small group of trusted aides to discuss strategy. Among them was Sarah Miller, a communications specialist known for her sharp instincts. She warned JD about the potential backlash. "People love Obama," Sarah said bluntly. "They won't want to hear this. You'll need to frame it carefully. Make it about holding leaders accountable, not attacking him personally." JD nodded. "That's exactly what I intend to do. This isn't about revenge, it's about justice." Sarah helped craft a concise presentation, using visuals and data to make the case clear and compelling. JD rehearsed tirelessly, practicing his delivery until it felt natural. He knew he'd have only minutes to speak before security intervened, so every second counted. Rachel watched anxiously as JD prepared. She admired his determination but feared for his safety. "What happens if they try to silence you?" she asked one evening. "They can try," JD said with a faint smile. "But they can't stop the truth. Once it's out there, it's out." The day of the tech summit arrived. San Francisco buzzed with excitement as attendees filed into the convention center. Reporters jockeyed for position, eager to capture Obama's words. Backstage, Obama reviewed his notes one last time, oblivious to the drama unfolding around him. Hale and Bennett hovered nearby, exchanging nervous glances. Earlier that morning, they'd received word of suspicious activity. An unknown source had leaked parts of their internal communications to several news outlets. While none of the stories had gained traction yet, the threat loomed large. Both men resolved to stay vigilant, keeping a close eye on the audience for any signs of trouble. Unbeknownst to them, J.D. Vance had already slipped into the building. Dressed casually to avoid drawing attention, he mingled with the crowd, waiting for the right moment to act. Emily, watching remotely from the safe house, held her breath. She knew what J.D. was risking, and she prayed it wouldn't end in disaster. As Obama took the stage, the room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, capturing his confident stride to the podium. For a brief moment, everything seemed normal. Then J.D. moved, slipping past security guards and stepping onto the stage. A hush fell over the audience as J.D. approached the podium, holding up a tablet displaying incriminating evidence. His voice rang out, calm but firm. "Ladies and gentlemen, before you hear another word, you deserve to know the truth. What you're about to see proves that former President Obama and his team have been using unethical AI tools to manipulate public opinion. This isn't speculation, it's fact. And it's time we demanded accountability." The room exploded into chaos. Some attendees shouted in outrage, while others cheered J.D. on. Obama, caught off guard, struggled to respond. On stage, the battle lines were drawn. The gloves were finally off. The moment J.D. Vance stepped onto the stage, the room froze. Cameras that had been trained on Barack Obama swung toward J.D., capturing every move. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The audience was stunned, some unsure if this was part of the program, others too shocked to react. J.D. stood tall, his expression calm but determined. He held up the tablet in his hand, its screen glowing with documents and graphs. "Ladies and gentlemen," J.D. began, his voice steady and clear. "I know this is unexpected, but what I'm about to show you cannot wait. This isn't just about politics. It's about trust, about whether we can believe in our leaders, or if they're using technology to control us." He tapped the screen and a large monitor behind him lit up with the first piece of evidence, a contract between Obama's team and an AI company. The document showed signatures, dates, and dollar amounts. J.D. pointed to it as he spoke. "This contract proves that advanced algorithms were created to manipulate public opinion. They targeted specific groups: low-income families, undecided voters, young people online. These tools weren't designed to inform or educate, they were built to deceive." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some people whispered angrily, accusing J.D. of lying. Others stared at the screen, their faces pale with disbelief. Reporters scrambled to take photos and jot down notes, sensing the enormity of the moment. Barack Obama finally broke his silence. Stepping forward, he tried to regain control of the situation. "This is outrageous," he said, his tone measured but firm. "These accusations are baseless. Whoever put this together is playing a dangerous game." J.D. didn't flinch. He turned to face Obama directly. "Baseless? Then explain these emails." Another tap on the tablet brought up screenshots of conversations between Obama's advisors and the AI company. The messages discussed strategies for influencing election outcomes and suppressing dissenting voices. Obama's jaw tightened. He glanced at Marcus Hale and Laura Bennett, who stood frozen backstage, panic flashing across their faces. Neither of them dared to step forward. Instead, Laura whispered urgently into her phone, likely trying to coordinate damage control. J.D. pressed on. "You claim to stand for transparency and fairness, but your actions tell a different story. This isn't leadership, it's manipulation, and the American people deserve better." By now, the room was in complete chaos. Half the audience booed J.D., calling him reckless and dishonest. The other half cheered, shouting phrases like, "Show us the truth," and "Hold them accountable." Security guards rushed toward the stage, ready to remove J.D. by force. But before they could act, Emily Dawson appeared on screen. Emily had hacked into the venue's video system remotely, broadcasting herself live. Her face filled the massive monitor above the stage. She looked nervous but resolute. "My name is Emily Dawson," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm the journalist who uncovered this conspiracy. Everything J.D. Vance is saying is true. I have more evidence and I'm willing to share it with anyone who wants to investigate further." The audience erupted again. Some people shouted questions at Emily, demanding proof. Others applauded her bravery, recognizing the risk she was taking. J.D. nodded at the screen, silently thanking her for stepping in when it mattered most. Obama, visibly shaken, attempted to respond. "This is absurd," he said, raising his voice to be heard over the noise. His words lacked their usual confidence. "Anyone can fabricate documents or edit videos. You're asking people to believe lies without real evidence," J.D. countered. "Immediately." "Then let's settle this right now. Open an investigation. Bring in independent experts to verify everything we've shown you. If I'm wrong, I'll step down from office and apologize publicly. But if I'm right..." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "If I'm right, then the world needs to know the truth." At that moment, the security guards finally reached J.D. They grabbed his arms and started pulling him away from the podium. J.D. didn't resist. Instead, he raised his voice one last time, addressing the crowd. "Ask yourselves this. Why are they so afraid of the truth?" As J.D. was escorted off stage, the tension in the room reached a boiling point. Arguments broke out among attendees, dividing friends and colleagues. Reporters raced to file stories, while social media exploded with reactions. Hashtags like #glovesoff and expose the truth trended worldwide within minutes. Backstage, Marcus Hale and Laura Bennett frantically tried to salvage the situation. They called their contacts in the tech industry, urging them to discredit Emily's and Beam claims. "Plant counter-narratives," Marcus instructed. "Say she's a conspiracy theorist, that she's working with foreign governments, anything to make people doubt her." Laura nodded, already typing furiously on her laptop. "We'll leak fake evidence tying her to hackers overseas," she said. "It won't hold up under scrutiny, but it'll buy us time." Neither of them noticed the man standing quietly in the corner, Alex Carter, J.D.'s cybersecurity expert friend. Alex had infiltrated the event disguised as a technician, planting devices to monitor communications. As Marcus and Laura plotted, Alex recorded every word, sending the audio straight to J.D.'s team. Hours later, J.D. sat in a secure location, reviewing the recordings Alex had captured. Rachel was with him, her expression grim. "They're panicking," she said, "but they're not going to stop, not unless we hit them harder." J.D. agreed. "We need to release everything we have, all the documents, emails, recordings. Flood the internet with it. Let the public decide what's true." Rachel hesitated. "And what about Emily? She's still in danger." "I'll protect her," J.D. promised. "She's done more than anyone could ask. Now it's our turn to finish what she started." That night, J.D.'s team launched a coordinated campaign. They uploaded thousands of files to multiple platforms, ensuring the information couldn't be deleted or suppressed. Whistleblowers inside the AI company began coming forward, corroborating Emily's claims. Journalists dug deeper, uncovering even more connections between Obama's team and the unethical use of artificial intelligence. The backlash was swift and brutal. Critics accused J.D. of orchestrating a smear campaign, while supporters hailed him as a hero. Protesters gathered outside the convention center, holding signs that read, "Transparency now," and "No more lies." Meanwhile, federal investigators announced they would launch a formal inquiry into the allegations. In San Francisco, Obama retreated to a private suite, surrounded by his closest advisors. Gone was the charismatic leader who inspired millions. In his place was a man grappling with the collapse of his carefully crafted image. He paced back and forth, his frustration evident. "How could this happen?" he demanded, glaring at Marcus and Laura. "You assured me everything was covered." "We thought it was," Marcus stammered, "but someone must have leaked the data." We don't know how much they have. Obama stopped pacing and looked at them sharply. Fix it. Whatever it takes, fix it. Marcus and Laura exchanged uneasy glances. They knew it wasn't going to be easy. The truth was spreading faster than they could contain it. And as the days passed, the pressure mounted, not just on Obama but on everyone involved. Emily watched the news from her safe house, tears streaming down her face. She hadn't expected things to escalate so quickly, but despite the fear, she felt a sense of pride. For years, she'd fought to expose corruption, often feeling powerless against forces far greater than herself. Now, thanks to J.D. Vance and countless others who believed in the cause, the truth was finally seeing the light of day. Her phone buzzed with a text from J.D. "Thank you for having the courage to speak up. We're winning this fight together." Emily smiled faintly. Winning might still be a long way off, but for the first time in a long time she allowed herself to hope. Hope that justice could prevail, hope that accountability mattered, and hope that the gloves were truly off, for good. In the days following the explosive confrontation at the Tech Summit, the United States felt like a nation divided in two. On one side were those who supported J.D. Vance, praising him as a champion of truth and accountability. On the other side were those who dismissed his claims as baseless attacks on a beloved former president. The debate raged everywhere, from living rooms to classrooms, from social media feeds to cable news shows. It seemed impossible to escape. J.D. Vance became the center of attention overnight. Reporters camped outside his house, demanding interviews. Talk show hosts invited him onto their programs, eager to hear his side of the story. Supporters sent letters and messages thanking him for standing up to powerful figures. Critics called him reckless, accusing him of tearing apart the country for personal gain. Through it all, J.D. remained calm but resolute. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he refused to back down. Rachel stood by him every step of the way. She fielded calls from worried friends and family members reminding J.D. to take care of himself amidst the chaos. Late at night, when the noise of the world faded, they talked about what might come next. "This isn't just about you anymore," Rachel said one evening. "It's about everyone who feels like their voice doesn't matter. Don't lose sight of that." "I won't," J.D. replied. "But I can't do this alone. We need more people to join us to demand answers and hold leaders accountable." Barack Obama, meanwhile, retreated from public view. The man who had once inspired millions with his speeches now avoided the spotlight entirely. Behind closed doors, he met with Marcus Hale and Laura Bennett, trying to salvage what was left of his reputation. Both advisors looked haggard, their usual confidence replaced by fear and desperation. "We're losing control," Marcus admitted during one tense meeting. "Every time we deny the allegations, someone else comes forward with more evidence. It's like fighting a wildfire." Laura nodded grimly. "And the media isn't helping. They're running wild with conspiracy theories. Half the stories out there are fake, but people believe them anyway." Obama leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "What about the AI company? Can't we shut them down or discredit them?" "It's too late for that," Marcus said. "Their employees are talking to investigators. Some have already leaked internal documents. If we try to silence them now, it'll only make things worse." Obama sighed deeply. For the first time in years, he looked unsure of himself. The weight of the scandal pressed down on him, threatening to crush everything he had worked for. Yet even as his inner circle scrambled to mitigate the damage, cracks began to form within their ranks. Marcus and Laura argued constantly, each blaming the other for the mess they were in. Trust dissolved quickly, leaving behind only paranoia and blame. Federal prosecutors moved swiftly, launching investigations into both the AI company and Obama's team. Agents raided offices, seizing computers, files, and hard drives. Executives from the AI firm were arrested, charged with conspiracy and fraud. Key members of Obama's staff, Marcus Hale and Laura Bennett among them, were subpoenaed to testify before Congress. As details emerged, the full scope of the operation came into focus. Millions of dollars funneled through shadowy accounts, algorithms designed to sway elections and covert campaigns targeting vulnerable populations. The revelations shocked the public. Many struggled to reconcile the accusations with the image of Barack Obama as a champion of hope and progress. Supporters clung to their belief in his innocence, dismissing the evidence as politically motivated smears. Critics, however, saw confirmation of their worst fears, that even the most admired leaders could betray the trust of the people. Amid the turmoil, grassroots movements sprang up across the country. Ordinary citizens, inspired by J.D. Vance and Emily Dawson's courage, began organizing protests and petitions. They demanded greater transparency in government and stricter regulations on artificial intelligence. Social media played a key role, amplifying voices that had long been ignored. Hashtags like Truth Matters and accountability now trended daily, uniting people from all walks of life. Emily herself remained in hiding, aware that her safety was still at risk. Despite the danger, she continued leaking information to trusted sources. Her bravery inspired others to come forward with their own stories of corruption. One whistleblower revealed how political campaigns used similar tactics to manipulate voters. Another exposed unethical practices within major tech companies. Each new revelation added fuel to the fire, keeping the momentum alive. For J.D. Vance, the pressure mounted. Allies urged him to capitalize on the scandal by running for president, positioning himself as the leader of a new era of accountability. Opponents launched smear campaigns, dredging up old controversies to undermine his credibility. Some accused him of grandstanding, while others claimed he was using the situation for personal gain. Through it all, J.D. stayed focused on his mission. He traveled the country speaking at rallies and town halls. His message was simple. Democracy depended on trust. Without transparency, without accountability, the system would collapse. People listened, not because J.D. was perfect, but because he spoke honestly about the challenges facing the nation. At one event in Ohio, a young woman approached him after his speech. Her name was Megan Carter, and she worked as a teacher in a struggling school district. "I never thought anyone cared about people like me," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you for fighting for us." J.D. smiled faintly. "I'm not doing this for myself," he replied. "I'm doing it for everyone who feels forgotten. Together, we can make a difference." As weeks turned into months, the fallout from the scandal continued to reshape American politics. Federal charges were filed against several executives from the AI company, along with key members of Obama's team. While Obama himself avoided legal consequences, his reputation suffered irreparable harm. Once seen as a symbol of hope, he now represented the dangers of unchecked power. J.D. Vance emerged stronger than ever. To some, he was a hero, a man willing to risk everything for the truth. To others, he was a divisive figure, polarizing the nation further. Regardless of opinion, his influence grew. Rather than pursuing higher office immediately, he dedicated himself to passing legislation aimed at regulating AI and protecting democratic institutions. His partnership with Emily evolved into a close friendship, united by their shared commitment to justice. Emily, meanwhile, faced ongoing threats and harassment. She relocated multiple times, relying on J.D.'s team to keep her safe. Though the danger never fully disappeared, she found solace in knowing she had made a difference. Her actions inspired countless others to speak out, creating a ripple effect that reached far beyond her wildest dreams. By the end of the year, the landscape of American politics had shifted dramatically. Trust in traditional leaders waned, replaced by a growing demand for accountability and transparency. Grassroots movements gained traction, pushing for reforms in areas ranging from voting rights to environmental policy. Technology companies faced increased scrutiny, forced to rethink how they used data and algorithms. Though the scars of the scandal remained, there was also a glimmer of hope. Ordinary people, inspired by J.D. Vance and Emily Dawson's fight, began taking matters into their own hands. They organized locally, demanding change from the ground up. While the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: The gloves were finally off, and no one, not even the most powerful figures, was above scrutiny. Months had passed since the explosive revelations at the tech summit, and the nation was still reeling. The scandal had left deep scars on American politics, reshaping how people viewed their leaders and institutions. Barack Obama, once a towering figure admired by millions, now found himself relegated to the sidelines. His speeches drew smaller crowds, his endorsements carried less weight, and his name often came up in discussions about the dangers of unchecked power. For J.D. Vance, life had changed in ways he never imagined. He became a household name, though not everyone agreed on whether that was a good thing. Supporters hailed him as a hero, a man who risked everything to expose corruption and demand accountability. Critics accused him of tearing apart the country, using sensationalism to further his own ambitions. Despite the mixed reactions, one fact remained undeniable. J.D. Vance had ignited a movement. People across the nation were waking up to the importance of transparency and demanding better from their leaders. Rachel watched her husband navigate this new reality with pride, but also concern. She saw the toll it took on him, the late nights, spent strategizing, the endless phone calls, the constant scrutiny from both allies and enemies. Yet she also saw something else: purpose. J.D. wasn't just fighting for political gain, he was fighting for a cause bigger than himself. Every time he stood before a crowd or delivered a speech, she could see the fire in his eyes. It reminded her why she fell in love with him in the first place. Emily Dawson, too, faced challenges she hadn't anticipated. While her bravery inspired countless others, it also made her a target. Threats continued to pour in, some subtle, others overtly violent. At times she wondered if speaking out had been worth the cost. But then she'd think about the emails she received from strangers, thanking her for exposing the truth. Mothers wrote to say they felt empowered to question authority. Students shared stories of organizing protests on campus. Even senior citizens expressed gratitude for reminding them that democracy required vigilance. These messages kept Emily going, even when fear threatened to overwhelm her. With J.D.'s help, she relocated to a quiet town where no one knew her name. She adopted a low profile, working part-time at a local library while continuing to investigate other potential scandals. Though she avoided the spotlight, her work never stopped. She collaborated with whistleblowers, journalists, and activists, helping shine a light on abuses of power wherever they occurred. For Emily, this fight wasn't over. It might never be, but she knew she couldn't give up. In Washington, D.C., federal prosecutors announced charges against several high-profile figures implicated in the AI scandal. Executives from the tech company faced prison sentences for their roles in developing manipulative algorithms. Key members of Obama's team, including Marcus Hale and Laura Bennett, were indicted on charges of conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Testimonies revealed how far they had gone to cover their tracks, including attempts to bribe witnesses and destroy evidence. Barack Obama himself avoided criminal charges due to lack of direct involvement. However, the damage to his legacy was profound. Once celebrated as a symbol of hope, he now represented the risks of placing blind trust in charismatic leaders. Books and documentaries dissected his presidency, questioning decisions that had once seemed untouchable. For many, the scandal served as a wake-up call. No one, not even the most revered figures, was above accountability. As the dust settled, J.D. Vance faced a decision. Allies urged him to run for president, arguing that he had the momentum and public support needed to win. Polls showed him leading among voters disillusioned with traditional politicians. Yet J.D. hesitated. Running for office meant stepping into a world of relentless attacks and compromises. Could he stay true to his principles while navigating the complexities of national leadership? Rachel helped him weigh the options. "If you run," she said one evening, "you'll have to decide what really matters to you. Is it about fixing the system or proving a point?" J.D. thought long and hard about her words. In the end, he chose a different path. Instead of pursuing the presidency, he focused on passing meaningful legislation. Working with lawmakers from Both parties, he introduced bills aimed at regulating artificial intelligence, protecting voter rights, and increasing government transparency. Some efforts succeeded, others failed. But each victory, no matter how small, brought him closer to his ultimate goal, restoring faith in democracy. His work extended beyond Capitol Hill. JD traveled the country, meeting with ordinary Americans to hear their concerns. He visited factories, schools, and community centers, listening to stories of struggle and resilience. These interactions reminded him why he entered politics in the first place, not for fame or power, but to serve the people. Meanwhile, grassroots movements continued to grow. Inspired by JD and Emily's actions, citizens organized locally to demand change. Town halls filled with passionate voices calling for reform. Social media buzzed with campaigns advocating for stricter regulations on technology companies. Young activists led marches holding signs that read, "Transparency saves lives and no more secrets." Even corporations began feeling the pressure, pledging to adopt ethical practices in response to consumer demands. The shift wasn't immediate, nor was it perfect. Progress came slowly, marked by setbacks and compromises. But for the first time in years, there was a sense of hope, a belief that ordinary people could make a difference. Leaders who once dismissed public opinion now paid attention, knowing they would be held accountable if they didn't deliver results. 1 year after the tech summit, JD Vance returned to San Francisco to deliver a speech at the same convention center where everything had begun. The audience was smaller this time, but the energy was palpable. As JD stepped onto the stage, applause erupted, echoing through the room. "Thank you," he said, smiling faintly. "A lot has changed since we last gathered here. Some days I wonder if we've done enough, if we've truly made a difference. But then I meet people like Emily Dawson, who risked everything to uncover the truth. Or Megan Carter, a teacher fighting for her students' futures. Or the countless others standing up for what's right even when it's hard." He paused, looking out at the crowd. "This isn't about me. It's about all of us. Democracy only works if we participate, not just during elections, but every single day. It's messy, frustrating, and sometimes painful, but it's ours, and it's worth fighting for." When JD finished speaking, the room erupted in cheers. People lined up to shake his hand, share their stories, and thank him for inspiring them to take action. Among them was Emily, who had decided to attend despite the risks. When JD spotted her, he pulled her aside. "You did this," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Not me. You." Emily shook her head. "We did it together, and we're not done yet." The road ahead remained uncertain. Challenges loomed large, from political gridlock to technological advancements that tested the limits of regulation. But for the first time in a long time, people believed change was possible. They realized that accountability wasn't just a buzzword, it was a responsibility shared by everyone. As JD and Emily left the convention center that evening, they exchanged a glance. Neither spoke, but they didn't need to. Both understood what the moment meant. The gloves were finally off, and the fight for justice was far from over.